Would you stand with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the opportunity we have to serve our fellow man, and we pray that you be with us today in our deliberations, and we pray, Heavenly Father, with the impending weather, we pray for the safety of the residents of our county. We just pray that you'll be with us today and just continue to be with us all through our lives. In Christ's name, amen. Richard, lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Carrie, would you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Craig Lynch.
Present.
Rhonda Allen.
Here.
Richie Bowen.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan. Gary Farley. Will Jordan.
Here.
Mike Cush. Jeff Phillips.
Present.
Steve Sandlin. Mike Vaught.
Here.
Vincent Windrow. We do have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Pettis.
You have an old
I have an alternate, sorry, Peta 3.
He's here.
Farley's no longer on.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on the approval of our minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that they be approved as mailed.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. Doug, anything withdrawn or deferred?
No, sir.
Bond plat extensions. Dale, do you want to do them one at a time or what?
The first two are requests to extend the plat a year. Basically, they haven't started any work out there, but because of economic conditions, they want to extend their plat for a year. And the third one is for a bond extension for a year from Princeton Oaks. So we can either do them together or separately.
Staghorn's not a regular RS-15, it's a PUD
It's a
or
PUD.
PRD. And is there any problem with extending it as it is? Is that need
No, nothing's changed with it.
Okay. the regulations are still the same as they would, so we wouldn't ask for any changes if it came back through?
The views of Lytle Creek subdivision and Princeton Oaks subdivision. Your recommendation?
Recommendation is to extend these as requested.
Do you have a motion?
So move.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Submitted for final plat approval, Rachel's Place, Section 2, Phase 1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Rachel's Place, as you stated, Section 2, Phase 1. It's 3 lots on 1.72 acres, zoned R15, located along Hawksbeard Court. Jones Construction Company is the developer. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Corbett.
These are just 3 lots that were already in the preliminary. They've asked to that they be approved because they apparently have some interest in business. There's no change in the drainage, so it meets our requirements, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anyone have questions on this one? Okay, this is a final.
Move to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Cascade Falls, Section 3, Phase 1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Cascade Falls, Section 3, Phase 1. It's 1 lot on 1.26 acres, zoned R15, located along Broken Creek Lane. Michael A. Hollingshead's developer. Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, Mr. Hollingshead came in. He had interest in this 1 lot. So we've asked him to do, they included the Royal Oak, Broken Creek, it has to be paved also. So that the lot is as in the preliminary. It's just in this case he's asking for approval of this 1 lot to go forward, and we recommend approval. It meets our requirement.
All right, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Crescent Ridge, Section 2A.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. At Crescent Ridge, Section 2A, this is 2 lots on .88 acres, zoned R15, located along Crescent Ridge Drive. New South Developers, LLC is the developer. Mr. Engineer.
These 2 lots are requested. The previous section had already been approved. Where this road ends, they were going to do some work, and so I basically asked approval of these 2 lots to pay for the road improvements that they're doing. We recommend approval. It's as approved on the preliminary, so there's no change there.
All right, questions?
What was that about the end of the road again?
Well,
Dale?
where the road comes up to this point, they've got the road paved up until past 179 there.
Right.
So basically, they're asking for the approval of those 2 lots to go with that, where they've done the work, which they weren't approved on the previous section.
And the road work has been done?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Have a motion? Motion approved. Motion approved, have a second.
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Crescent Ridge, Section 2B.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is Crescent Ridge Section 2B. It's 25 lots on 15.16 acres, zoned R15. Again, it's located off of Crescent Ridge Drive. New South Developers LLC is the developer. Mr. Engineer.
Now, this is basically again, it agrees with the preliminary. It's an extension of what they've done out there already, and so it meets our requirements, Mr. Chairman.
All right, questions?
It's kind of odd approving final plats again. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, and that many lots too. Anybody have any questions? Meets all requirements.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Site plan approval, Image Orthodontics.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is Image Orthodontics site plan. It's for a 655 square foot addition, which will make the building a grand total of 2,442 square feet. It's on about a half acre of land. This was recently considered by the Planning Commission and also by the Board of Commissioners at their February 17th, 2011 meeting. Essentially what they're doing is they're converting an existing house into an orthodontics office and making a small addition. You'll see on the site plan that they have provided adequate parking as well as the proposed, you see the proposed addition on the plan. They'll be abandoning the existing field lines for some new field lines in the New Souls area that they've identified. The parking area is taking up the existing field line area that they have. The conditions that were placed on this and the review that we did among staff, most of the conditions have been met based on what the staff recommended. There is still one outstanding item, and that's the variance request for the proposed addition that is going to our Board of Zoning Appeals in March. So any approval of this site plan just needs to be contingent upon that variance being granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Other than that, it appears to meet the rest of our requirements, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone have questions?
Doug, when the BZA looks at this, do they ever look at the site plan, or they just look at the use period? Like, I'm just wondering, if we move the site plan forward as is, will we leave them latitude to tweak it, or do they not tweak site plans?
They typically, I mean, we will give them the site plan, so they, you know, you're looking at the same information. But I mean, really, what they're considering is the variance request. They might say, well, you know, would it make more sense if you did this? And if it's something that that can be done rather easily, you know, that is a possibility. They can put conditions on variances, but generally they don't. You know, they will sometime, but you know, really all they'll be looking at is the actual variance request. Not so much. This isn't a conditional use permit to them. This is just a variance request. So.
And then on the field lines, have they already gotten all their approvals from the state on relocating?
Yeah. If you look on the plan that's before you, they've got their signatures from the health authority. So.
What are they looking for from the BZA on the side setback?
Actually, the front, because
Yeah, because it's a dual front.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
right, and the fact that, you know, when they went to commercial zoning, it becomes a 70-foot front as opposed to a 40. So,
Okay, other questions? Meets all requirements?
yes, sir. But except for the
BZA.
condition.
Yeah. Have a motion.
Move to approve with conditions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Staff report. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Our first staff report that we have today for you is consideration of our fiscal year 2011-2012 budget. You have a number of papers before you, and I apologize, we do have several things to look at, but the sheet we're going to be looking at, it's going to, at the top it'll say budget worksheet fiscal year 2011-2012. It looks like this. We did have a meeting with the budget subcommittee this past Tuesday and reviewed the proposed budget. I'm just going to kind of go briefly over all the line items. Well, not all of them, but just kind of going down through the line items just to point out any major changes. The first few, starting in with county official administrative. The first about 4 right there, which as assistants, supervisor, director, and secretaries, that's all payroll related. And that's all, those were numbers provided to us from our finance department, so that's where we got those. We proposed to leave our part-time personnel the same. Our longevity pay has increased just a little bit, and that just, again, just covers the longevity of those people who are still employed in our department. Board and committee member fees, we've left the same. In-service training, we've left steady as well as $7,000. The Social Security, state retirement, employee insurance, disability, Medicare, all of that, again, is provided to us using formulas through our finance department. So those numbers are just based on the salaries and the personnel that we have. Communications is the first item that really bears a little bit of discussion. You'll notice that the communication line item has gone down from last year's budget of $5,470 to this year proposed $2,600. We did have there's a couple things in there that have contributed to that decrease. The first is the existing phone system that we were using really in this whole building was pretty much on its last legs, and our OIT department had in their budget this year to convert this building to a VoIP phone system. So that eliminates a lot of the fees that we had, monthly fees through AT&T, and the billing for all that's really handled through the OIT department, so that's not really reflected in our budget anymore. That's a majority of the cost. The other, that's not actually mentioned here, but the other thing that we did was we took our wireless plan, we had it through Nextel, and we switched it over to Verizon, so we were able to recognize a small savings there as well. So that kind of contributes to what the decrease in that line item. The consultants line item, you'll notice that went from $100,000 to $30,000. Of course, the consultants, the primary, they're the only thing at this point in the budget for the consultants is our comprehensive plan and planning tools update project. As you see in the explanations there to the right, you'll see that they've invoiced us $211,000, about $212,000 at this point. The total contract amount was $249,000. There's still some money in this year's budget, so a majority of that contract should be taken care of before the end of this fiscal year. But talking with our consultant, they said just put $15,000 in for next fiscal year just in case the work's not quite done. That should give us more than enough to handle any future invoices that they'll provide us. The remaining $15,000, you'll see we've programmed $10,000 in there for our major thoroughfare plan update. At this point, we're working with the MPO in Nashville to possibly do basically a county-wide thoroughfare plan with Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne. And we're still kind of working through that process. The projected cost of that contract would be about $200,000. 80% of that would be taken care of through the MPO. The other 20% would be local match. So split the $40,000 amongst the 4 government entities. That'd be $10,000 per entity. So that's what that $10,000 is for. Also, Smyrna and Laverne are in the process of possibly completing a transit study for that area and possibly some areas in the northern county area. Talking with the mayor, he did say he'd be willing to contribute a small amount to that study, but Smyrna and Laverne should handle the majority of that. So we just programmed $5,000 in there just for that. So that's where you see the $30,000. Dues and memberships, you'll notice that it's gone up just a little bit. Most of that, speaking of the MPO, is due to the dues that we pay into the MPO every year. They should remain static this year, no increase, but they did recommend we put in a 10% increase just to be on the safe side. So most of that is included in that increase that you see from $10,600 to $12,000. Also, we're anticipating that both our planners are going to be taking the certified planner exam this year, and if they pass the exams, then their fees are also included in that $12,000 as well. Maintenance agreements, you'll notice, has gone down just a little bit. We were able to combine a couple of our maintenance contracts for our copiers. We actually combined them into one contract and have saved a pretty substantial amount of money. We've actually already signed the contract to do that, so we're already saving the money, and that's going to be good through the remainder of next fiscal year. This line item may change just a little bit. There is a wide format scanner that we have in our office that was purchased with a maintenance plan. However, we're getting to the end of that, and OIT is checking on the cost of a new maintenance contract and who's going to foot the bill for that. So that one may go up just a little bit. Besides that, everything else in here that you see is pretty much the same as it was last year. So that's just a quick overview of the budget. Does anybody have any questions before I go on to any of the other sheets on this? Yes, sir.
Doug, back up in 169, the part-time, your actual 6 months, I guess, right there is showing about 4, but you got 10 in there.
Mhm.
What's anything coming out of that part-time, or are we just leaving? It's not very much right there, but I mean, is that rest of that's going to be used this year, or is it?
It may not be the whole. The whole may not be used this year. Typically, what the part-time personnel handles is when we have absences, or because right now we have 3 full-time positions in our office. Now, one of the full-time administrative positions is a little unusual in the respect that it's kind of she's under our department, but she splits time between our department and then the groundwater next door. So we have her 2 days a week, and 3 days a week she's over at the groundwater office, taking care of business over there. So there are times.
That's coming out of 105?
Secretaries is 161, actually.
Oh, it's coming out of 161, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
But so typically on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, that leaves us 2 full-time personnel in our office. And if somebody's on vacation or someone's sick or something like that happens, this helps us to cover gaps in coverage in that regard. So it's a little low right now, but there's been several things that have gone on here over the last month or two that we anticipate that.
So the
going
biggest
up a little
decrease
bit.
in the whole thing is basically 308 and the consultants.
Right, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up. If you get the colored sheet out, this is basically just kind of a spreadsheet showing actual expenditures versus budgeted expenditures from fiscal year 2003 to the present. When we looked at this amongst the budget committee the other day, Mr. Phillips, you had asked us to kind of take out the consultant fees just to kind of compare apples to apples, so to speak. You'll notice that if you were to take out the consultant fees in 2010, what you would see, now again, this sheet here that you're looking at, the colored one, doesn't have salaries in it. This is just operational expenses. But the operational expenses were 103, 160, and this fiscal year, the proposed budget expenditures are 101, 800. So we actually went down about $1,360, or about 1.32%. So yeah, that is the largest decrease that we've seen.
Doug, back on the first sheet you were reading from, on line item 332,
Mhm.
there's an increase in that.
Well,
We decided to make a change on how we're.
Well, right, yeah. The one that I handed out that was on the desk actually shows that back to current levels. So after further discussion, with the mayor's office and amongst staff, that went back down to 4,500.
Okay. And then I also noticed on gasoline, there's not an increase projected in that one. And I was listening today, and they're saying the economists are projecting we could be seeing $5, a gallon
Yeah.
this summer. So I'm just curious, is that just what do we do when we
Well,
go if it's not budgeted?
Yeah, the direction we've received from the mayor's office on that is pretty much leave it at this point, and if we need it, we can come back and ask for it.
There's less development going on, so there's less driving going on.
Exactly,
But-
and we see that, that just not even in gasoline, but also in postage and those kind of things, which is why we haven't seen a whole lot of change in those. When there's less rezonings and BZA cases to go out and look at, we're not driving as much. So now I'm not saying that if a gas does get that high, you very well may see us with a budget amendment, further on in the next fiscal year saying, hey, we need to shift a little money around. But at this point, that's the direction we've been given. So. A couple other sheets. Of course, we have our budget. Our revenue estimate worksheet looks like this, right here. Basically, all we've done is we've taken our 6 months numbers, the revenue that we received, and doubled it, and that kind of gives us the total estimated revenue that we would anticipate for the rest of this year, or for next year, excuse me. So that's pretty much how we typically handle that. And then our 5-year capital budget, you'll notice that really as far as major equipment and purchases, we're in pretty good shape as far as our copiers and our plotters and everything. Those are in pretty good shape. I don't anticipate really needing anything new for a few years on those. We would like a vehicle to replace our Suburban, but the mayor's has told us this year no new cars or anything like that. So we just keep making the one we have work. So
That's about an ongoing 5-year request, isn't it?
yeah, we've had that. We've asked for a new Suburban every year I've been here. So, but it keeps running. So, and the last sheet really is just the 2011-12 draft budget. Really, this just is a little more detail on the first sheet we went over. It just goes into a little more detail on our budget line items. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, questions?
Well, one other than on your 5-year deal, we've on the new plotter, the copier, see new wide format copier, and then the Suburban 2, we've pulled out of like the development tax and done some of these capital projects or, single buy type line item type things. So, we'll look at this in the budgetary process and see if there's some of that we can try to look at and purchase out of that.
And I know that when it comes to electronic purchases, larger like computers and those kind of things, OIT does have a line item for, I don't want to say emergency purchases, but they do realize that things come up sometimes unexpected, things break, things have to be replaced.
Yeah.
So there is a fund to go to in those events, but we do have maintenance agreements on those larger pieces of equipment. So.
Would this come through, like these first 3 items here, come through Brian anyway on
Probably, yeah, because we would probably want to spec out what we're, kind of work it through them. A lot of these things actually can probably be bought on state bid anyway. Actually, that's how we bought the copier and everything up there. That pretty much was state bid.
Okay.
You all may have mentioned, well, I had to step out and take a call, but if you're expecting a vehicle in 2012-13, you ought to have been asking for it the last 3 years, because the last vehicle got pushed back at least 5 years every year before it finally got bought. So.
Yeah, I told
Don't
them. I said
expect
we've been
it
asking
the
for
first year.
we've been asking for a Suburban since I've been here. So
they're going to change the name before they
You wanted a 02 Suburban? We'll finally get it.
22, right?
All right, Doug, you want a motion on that?
yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, the recommendation out of the Budget Committee was to approve the 2011-12 budget as presented, and that's my motion.
Very good. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just want to do a little further discussion on our proposed amendments for standards for recreational vehicles. We had a discussion about this at our last meeting on the 14th. Staff has taken those comments, and we've tried to put those into the regulations that we're proposing. You have a copy of the proposal on your desks. Essentially, what we've done on that first paragraph there under proposed regulations is pretty much the same, except I got to looking at some additional examples that we had downloaded for the research we did for this. And I got to, I saw that someone had something in there about all-terrain vehicles, like little four-wheelers or something like that, and realized that the regulation we had didn't really include anything about that. So I just added that particular statement in there about 2 all-terrain vehicles and a trailer for such vehicles. The other issue that was brought up at the commission had to do with the size of property. Somebody's got 50, 100 acres or something like that. Why are we limiting them to just one if you can't even see that they have them on the property? So that second paragraph there, it's in bold and highlighted there. What you see is our attempt to deal with that situation. Properties greater than 1 acre in size would be allowed outdoor storage of more than one watercraft, all-terrain vehicle, trailer, whatnot, provided that, again, only one can be parking of one recreational vehicle or craft could be on a hard dustless surface. All the other vehicles or trailers would have to be stored so they couldn't be seen from the property line. And then that last little sentence there, this was our intent to, sometimes we're driving around and we'll happen to see an inoperable, dismantled vehicle just kind of sitting out in the yard. It's kind of unattractive to look at. So that was our attempt to possibly stem that kind of a situation from happening. So everything else really is the same. We haven't changed anything as far as the usage of the RVs for living or sleeping purposes, because it seemed like the Plan Commission seemed pretty happy with that. It was really just the storage of them on the property. So at this point, I'll just open it up for discussion.
Okay, questions?
This one still makes me nervous, and I'm looking at the property line. I think scares me as much. I'm thinking about my place. I'm a half mile from the road, but yet, I've got some stuff on, some trailers that can be seen from a property line.
Mm.
And it's a half mile off the road. I wonder if we shouldn't change that. Some of it could be farming, I know I use it to, I got a couple of trailers that I haul hay on. And yet, if the lot besides me that is a farm now turns into a residential subdivision, I can, if they go to complaining about me having a trailer parked out there beside the barn,
Mm-hmm.
does this make me have to build another building to put the trailers
Well,
in?
I mean, typically agricultural purposes agricultural uses and those things are exempt from regulations. I mean, maybe we just clarify that by adding that in there. The agricultural activities are exempt from this. I mean, we've done that in other regulations that we've brought to you. So, I mean, that's that would be one way to handle that.
How do you identify agricultural use as we get back to the definition of agriculture, which was a nightmare several years ago? I mean, Richie's not a full-time farmer. He's an electrical contractor, but he has a farm, and those are hay wagons. I don't have any question at all whether his use of the farm. What about the guy with 5 acres or 4 acres that has a few goats and horses in the field, and yet there's a subdivision behind him, and they can see his hay wagon sitting behind his barn, or 2 hay wagons sitting behind his barn? I don't know. I hate to.
Well, and again, our ag definition, as you all know, is 5 acre minimum. So, yeah, I mean that would not qualify at this time under our current regulations because of the size.
I mean, I understand what we're trying to do there, but I feel like to be honest, I feel like we're overstepping our bounds as a county by telling somebody what you can and can't do on your property.
Right, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, I will point out again that, I mean, that part of the regulation as far as outdoor storage of one item, that's currently what the regulation is. Okay, and I understand where you're coming from and the concerns you have, and what we're really doing is trying to open it up a little bit. But if you take the current regulation that we have, which, I mean, it's right there on the top of the sheet,
Yeah.
It says outdoor storage no more than one boat trailer, no more than one camping trailer, RV per dwelling unit. I mean, that is currently what it is.
It's more lax than what we've got.
Yes.
If it just depends on when we decide to start aggressively enforcing what we have or what's on the books.
Right.
And I know everybody wants to. I'm right there with Richie. I believe in property owners' rights, but at the same time, you've always got that one person in a neighborhood or somewhere that wants to put junk all over their field or their yard or something. We have to have some way to enforce that. So it's kind of a hard balancing act.
Yeah, and these situations that we find ourselves in, of course, we take them on a case-by-case basis. Like on your situation, if someone, and I doubt someone's going to do this, but if we get a call tomorrow that, well, my neighbor's Richie Bolin and he's got 2 or 3 trailers out here and it says he's only allowed to have one, and we talk to Richie and we say, well, Richie, what's going on here? And he says, well, these are agricultural trailers. I use these for hay and everything. As far as we're concerned, it ends right there. We'll just tell the person who complained, look, these are agricultural uses and structures. They're exempt from the provisions if we decide to add that in. So, everyone, it's just it's not that we just get a phone call and we automatically go out there and do enforcement. We have to investigate it first. Everyone's done on a case-by-case basis. So
Instead of saying property line, does right of way help out anything?
Well, if you
Seem
just
like
if
the
you just
city-
want to do
city
it,
codes have right of way instead of property line. Property line, your side, rear, everything.
4 sides to that.
So the right of way is just right of way, the front road right of way coming to your house or farm or something.
If that's, I mean, just as long as you understand that if you do that, then the property lines don't matter at that point. It could be stored basically 5 feet from the person's property line. You could have 50 of them. And if a neighbor calls up here and we can't see them from the road, says he's got 50 trailers out here that I can see, and we go out there, we can't see them from the road, it meets our reg, just as long as you understand that. So.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just I'm just throwing that out there for conversation because I mean that I know the city ordinance has from right of way, so I don't know if that would be any different than property line. And I understand your thought there as far as a subdivision coming in beside you or something, and having the looks all the way around your property or whatever. But
Right. I mean, we can certainly change that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a. I guess when I did this, I was what I had in mind was from property lines as opposed to just right away. But we can change that.
We've got to have a public hearing on this anyway,
Yes.
do we not?
Yeah.
Have we advertised it for?
We haven't advertised anything yet. I mean, figure we get through. We haven't advertised our March meetings yet, so that'll be coming up probably.
Want to make more changes and potentially that after we have a public hearing. See what concerns there are.
Yeah, I think so.
I still think it'd be a good idea to place agricultural vehicles are exempt in there.
Yeah, you'll have a cattle trailer, you'll have an equipment trailer, you'll have a couple of hay trailers, you'll have round bale trailer plus flat trailers. There's a lot of trailers that.
That would immediately clarify that for sure. And then when you get in a situation where an individual is not actively a full-time farmer or whatever, yet he is still hauling straw or whatever you may there, that would still give you an out to go to. Well, that falls within an agricultural type operation. Agritourism has become quite large right now, especially within this county right here. And you've got people that are doing agritourism on smaller acreages each and every day. And those wagons are being used for pumpkins in the fall and things of that type. So,
Hay rides.
And yeah, so I think it's important that you put that in there, that would clarify that, that would probably save some grief up here in this department.
Okay. Any other?
My 2 cents worth is to explain the agricultural exemption, and I think that's fine. The property line versus the setback, I like it the way it is. You know, there's going to be farms that, as an example, Richie might want to sell at some point in time. So those farmers are creating that situation by selling those. It's kind of like the discussion that we had a month or so ago on not liking certain things that are in the proposed changes to our ordinance. It's the same thing here, but opposite. So as far as the property lines versus the setback, I still like the property lines. There's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of homeowners out there that are going to be affected by this. And there are going to be more property line owners, dozens of residents out there that are affected by it than just the setback. So, you know, I'm in 100% agreement that agriculture will be exempted from this, and I thought it was kind of understood, but since it's a little confusion, I think we clarify that up. But I have a concern about the property lines versus the right-of-way discussion, and you know, we can change it, but I'm not one that right now is in favor of doing that. I'll take the opposite view of that.
Being a commissioner that represents a rural area, I don't know how many times I've gotten calls over the last 8 years from somebody that moved in a subdivision that's brand new and they don't like what the guy across the fence is doing, who's on a 3 or 4 or 5 acre tract, who grew up there, has been there his whole life, and all of a sudden they say, hey, I don't like what this guy's doing over here. Well, he's been there 40 years, and he is leaving his piling his brush in the back corner of his property and burning it once a year, hopefully legally with a burn permit. But I've got a little bit of a problem with when the guy's been there forever, and the person moves in a new subdivision, and all of a sudden they want to dictate what's going on across the fence. And there's a lot of difference in somebody out there on Weekly Lane or Dunaway Chapel Road or somewhere on 3 acre lot compared to somebody that's here on Thompson Lane, and there ought to be some difference to me on what all you can have when you're 8 miles out of town compared to a half a mile out of town.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but they're already exempted, right? The property owner that is complaining about the brush being piled up has no complaint. It's agricultural use, and they don't have a complaint.
If 3 acres is not agricultural use.
That's right. But what I'm saying is that that person should shut up. I mean, they've not got an agricultural use by definition. So I think it's just a residential situation, and I think we enforce residential situations. 5 acres, it's agricultural, and those residential lots wouldn't have anything to complain about because it's agricultural use. The less than 5 lots, I don't think they got a complaint.
I'm talking about the guy on the small lot complaining about the guy on a 3-acre lot who's been there his whole life.
And you're talking about the guy on the 3 acres that's probably been cut out of a 100-acre farm that his family may still own. Technically, it's
or was the adjacent property owner, something like that.
Technically, it's 2 different tracks.
If he sold off for the subdivision, then he ought to deal with it because he reaped the benefit. But if you're just an innocent neighbor who's living next door and the farm beside you got developed, then all of a sudden you've got 7 houses back up to your property line, and that's 7 new neighbors. And sometimes they come from a more urban area, and they don't get along with the rural ways of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I mean,
I'm not totally disagreeing with what Will says, but I am disagreeing. I mean, it's not an agricultural use. It is a residential lot, and they should be held to the same standards that everybody else should be handled for. And I think that those other homeowners have a legitimate complaint. What if for 40 years they've been piling up old cars in the backyard? It should be a legitimate complaint. 5 acres, agricultural definition, no complaint. None, just like we were talking about with Richie's a while ago. But when you got a residential defined lot, I don't care whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 acres, they have to be held to the same standards as everybody else. Have to be. I don't care how long they've been there. They have to be. I grew up on a 3-acre lot down in Laverne years and years and years ago, but now it was rural, but it's not anymore. It's in the city of Laverne. Should be held to the same standards as everybody else, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you'd make a definition of the difference in the two. They are according to what our standards are, a residential lot, just like all the rest of them that's been developed around them.
And I mean, it's quite frankly, I mean, it's, and I think we all know this, it's going to be impossible for us to write a regulation that's going to anticipate every single situation that we come up with, or that we could end up seeing. I mean, we'll try to do one that's as fair to everybody as possible. I mean, I see both sides of what you're saying.
And I do too, but how are you going to differentiate? How are you going to make distinctions? You know, well, you've been there 40 years, it's okay, and then you develop another 3-acre lot, and all of a sudden it's not okay for you. So what if all the rest of them around them were $750,000 homes sitting on a 5-acre lot themselves, and the one sitting over there was a 3-acre lot or a 4-acre lot? I think they ought to have the right to say you're not agriculture and you're not meeting the standards.
Maybe
Probably
they should have
hadn't
built
been
their
for
houses
years.
somewhere else.
What's that?
Maybe they should have built those houses somewhere else if the guy was there
You've got a guy
first.
that's got a junky place that's been junky for 40 years, and somebody comes in and builds a $750,000 house next door. He deserves what he gets because he built beside a junky place. He shouldn't move in all of a sudden and say, hey, this guy next door has got to clean this place up. I mean, I don't like somebody being allowed to have a junkyard by any means, but you know, somebody's parking 2 motorhomes in their backyard because one's his brother's and one's his, and he's got 3 acres and he's out in a rural area, and all of a sudden somebody moves next door and they don't like it, they can get him written up and may have to move one out. You know, so that's what I worry about. I worry about the people getting infringed upon that have been there all, you know, that didn't ask for the development. No.
And again, just so you all know, that could happen today. I mean, based on the regulation as is written, that could happen today. You know, we're not, if you approve the changes that we're proposing, that's not creating anything. You know, if anything, like I said, it's opening it up a little bit more. But the way the current reg is written, yeah, I mean, that could very well happen. I mean, I could go back up to my office and have a phone call waiting for me for that very thing. So.
Well, I think as planners, I mean, we really only get to look at the land use. You know, we don't get to look at how long somebody's been doing something. I just don't see that as part of what our purview is. And it may be unfortunate, but I think you got to draw the line somewhere. And we've historically drawn the line at 5 acres. And, you know, we could draw it at 3 acres or 2 acres or whatever that magic number is. But, I mean, I think at some point we have to draw the line somewhere, and somebody's going to fall on each side of the line. So I think it just goes back to trying to be as fair as we can be with the whole. And unfortunately, somebody's going to get caught on the wrong side of that line. But I think it's got to go back to specifically looking at the land and the land use. And on that point, on the second shaded paragraph, I had a question where it talks about inoperable and dismantled and registered vehicles, et cetera. It says are not allowed in residential zoning districts. That's across the board. That's regardless of lot size.
That's right.
Correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Now, again, that last, that was you were just referring to, that was not on the one that you had at the last meeting. That was something I saw in a regulation I thought was appropriate, so I put it in there for discussion today. So,
I like it.
Okay.
what we'll do is, we will take this discussion, to heart, so to speak, and we'll come up with, we'll make the changes, as far as the ag vehicles, and we'll look a little bit at some of the other issues as far as the right of way versus property line, and try to see if we see a theme in some of the other regulations we look at, if they differentiate between one or the other. I think Mr. Sandlin was right about Murfreesboro, how they do it, but we'll see how some of the others do it as well, and then we can talk more about that at the public meeting.
Okay. Anything else?
Just a couple of quick announcements, and then I don't know if Mr. Corbett has anything, but I'll turn it over to him in just a sec. Just a couple things. We had been talking about having a special meeting for the comprehensive plan that week of spring break in March. After polling the Planning Commission, there were several that probably weren't going to be able to make it. So, Craig, I know we just discussed it a little bit, that what we're going to end up doing is going ahead and just scheduling that for our April meeting. And a thought that we had was if we had other rezoning applications for April, if we didn't have many, we just go ahead and hear them real quick first and get them out of the way. But if we ended up having several, we thought about making the day meeting in April a night meeting. So we'd have 2 night meetings in April, and we'd just handle the rezonings and the other plats that we would get at the April meeting. I just kind of wanted to run that by you to see what your thoughts were on that. But that seemed a pretty good plan as far as I was concerned.
Which April meeting were you thinking about?
I'm sorry?
Which April meeting were you?
We would do the comprehensive plan at the first April, the night meeting in April, which I don't have the date right off the top of my head, but the 11th?
11th.
Okay. Okay, so that's when we do the 11th, and then I guess I'd make the 25th the day meeting. And again, if we only have like 1 or 2 applications and they're pretty straightforward at the night meeting, we could probably just hear those and get them out of the way and then concentrate on the comprehensive plan. If not, we could just talk about making the second meeting a night meeting. So.
When do we plan on having a public hearing for this? It'll be at a night
It'll be in
meeting.
March. Yeah, we'll do that the next night meeting in March.
Be a night meeting.
So you think about the 11th, and what was the other date?
It'd be the 25th. That'd be our regular day meeting, and we would just make that a night meeting.
If we need to.
If we need to, right.
need
And
to.
that
It's
we
not
won't know that
set in
until,
stone yet, yeah.
we won't know that until, a few weeks from now. So, but we can go ahead and advertise a comprehensive plan for the night meeting in April the 11th, and that'll give us the 30 days that we need for the public hearing. So.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
The other thing I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on this. At our March Day meeting next month, we're going to be having some representatives here from the Reagan Smith. They're part of our consultant team, but what they're going to be doing is going to be kind of separate from that. They're going to have some of their traffic engineers come here, and we're going to have a training session on talking about turn lanes and those kind of things, about when to look at them, when are they a good idea, when are they not a good idea, conditions, things to look at for studies, those kind of things. So that'll count as part of your public Chapter 862 training, but that's a topic I know we deal with on a regular basis, so I thought it'd be a good idea to have someone to come to speak about that. So I just kind of want to let you know that'll be at our next day meeting. So. And we'll probably invite any county commissioner who wants to come, BZA member, whoever, because again, that'll count as part of their training for the BZA as well. So that's all I have. Except for if you
before we adjourn, I forgot to mention Gail a while ago, and the hearts go out to Gail. I know she's lost her mother, and Terry, on that note, flower fund, is it for the flowers? Are you taking? Do we need to?
Gail keeps up with that, so I don't know where it stands. If any of you want to go ahead and make a donation today, I'll put it in with whatever she's already got, but it's already taken care of otherwise, so.
Okay. Well, we try to keep some funds in there.
She keeps some, but she keeps it separate from what I keep for the BCA, so I don't know what the total of it is. If anybody wants to give $5 or $10 to just replenish, that'd be great. So.
Okay, on another note, before our Monday meetings, could we get some kind of agenda, email to us, something every Friday before our Monday?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did email this. I'm pretty sure we emailed. Did anybody get the email?
I didn't get this one.
The last 2 weeks or so.
And then maybe that's what happened. Yeah, we'll make that we
On
we usually do, but
meetings.
we'll make sure that we do get that.
Okay.
We will have 2 meetings next month.
As at this point, yes. Mhm.
I feel like everybody in the room here is probably text messages, or at least knows how to receive a text message. Could we not set up something where somebody in the office sends out a group text like on the Friday before, and also 7:30 Monday morning before the 9 o'clock meeting, just to remind everybody, say, don't forget planning 9 o'clock. I mean,
Yeah, if you could just let us know who can and can't get texts. I think we can do it through our email where we just put the phone numbers in and everything. I mean, if everybody can get texts, then we can certainly do that. That's not difficult for us to do.
Probably has a cell phone and probably can get text. And
Just send it every way you can.
Okay.
Every way you can.
Smoke signals.
Pony Express.
Well, we're on the 14th at night and the 28th day, right?
Next month, yes. Mhm.
Disregard the 24th that we talked about
That's
at
correct.
one time.
That's correct.
That's off
That's
the
out.
table.
Right.
Okay, anybody else? Have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Keith, Will second.